So we're not there of spread. Another insight, unicorns are not for Africa. These are a couple of press articles from a couple of years ago saying that we are, while we wait for unicorns, maybe we could look at gazelle. There's been different wildlife names used to describe what startup could be. But as a matter of fact, we had a new unicorn this year. That's still pretty cool to celebrate, right? We have 8 unicorns across the continent. And the last one being Moneypoint from Nigeria. So maybe there are different forms of startups and animals that we can use to describe them across the continent, but we were still able to show that unicorns can be born and scale across the continent over the past couple of years. That's another thing that we have heard quite a bit. Sorry, the font is a bit strange here, but the deal size in Africa have dropped at all stage, pre-seed, seed, Series A, and Series B this year. But in reality, that's not really the case if we compare with the previous years. We look at pre-seed, it's only 20% lower than the average of previous years. Seed has been higher. Series A little bit lower, Series B a little bit higher. Some of you are, data crunchers will tell me it's better to look at median, so we looked at median. Oh, we don't have the data, but we looked at median. Sorry, that's the old presentation. And when you look at median, it's actually the same story. So pre-seed is actually even more equal to what it was the previous years. Seed is a little bit higher. Series A bit lower, and Series B is actually flat when we look at median. So deal size is very much comparable with the previous years. Here's another one I wish was true. Startup funding is more gender balanced. Here were a couple of press releases on some amazing startups that closed funding this year, led by fantastic female CEOs. I wish we could put a lot more on this slide. But unfortunately, startup funding is not more gender balanced. Only 5% of the funding this year went to female CEO-led startups. Everything you see in blue is basically just men. And that's been stable and the same kind of ratios for the past 5 years since we're tracking this data. So unfortunately, that's not the year where we can say startup funding is more gender balanced. I do believe we all have a role to play. It's not gonna work if we just hope it will change. We need to be active. I'm proud to say that at Catalyst Fund, we have actually a target to back at least 40% female founders in our portfolio. Currently, out of 22 investments, we stand at 31%, so we're pretty much on track. Yes, it's, I think, everybody's role to act so that we can actually say in the coming years that startup funding across the continent is more gender balanced. FinTech is still dominating, $600 million of funding this year, and the biggest sector. But actually, if we look more closely, climate tech has been the leading sector this year. With actually it's $700 million as of November, and that represents 35% of the total amount of funding raised by startups so far. Very happy again here with the work we're doing at Catalyst Fund to drive this new trend. We have been able to build a portfolio of 22 companies across the continent, specifically in the climate adaptation space. Our latest investment was actually announced a couple of minutes ago, a startup called Enacol in Morocco. I think the founders are here actually today. And we'll definitely continue driving these efforts at pre-seed, seed, and Series A. There were almost no exits this year. That's another thing that I hear a lot of us complaining about. There's not been enough exit, there's not been any exits, not enough liquidity events, and so on. And I'm not going to lie, there's not going to be